Known for tweeting sarcastic and stinging critiques of unelected Arab rulers, Palestinian pro-democracy activist Iyad el-Baghdadi rose to prominence in 2011 during the Arab Spring. In April, officials in Norway, where he's currently living under asylum, placed him in protective custody. Why? They received a shocking warning from the CIA of a possible threat to his life from the Saudi government. El-Baghdadi is a vocal critic of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and had been working with the late journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who of course was murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last October. So, does the Saudi government now have a policy of just assassinating its critics abroad? And if so, what can be done to stop them? Iyad el-Baghdadi joins me now from Oslo. Iyad, thanks for joining me on UpFront. Why you, Iyad? There are a lot of people around the world, Arab and non-Arab, Muslim and non-Muslim, who criticize, attack, oppose the Saudi Crown Prince. Why this alleged targeting of you specifically by him, do you think?
It's not just mere criticism that causes something like this. Of course, I am a critic of Mohammed bin Salman, also known as MBS. I think this is about more than criticism. This is about actual projects that I was involved in that I think were highly sensitive and seem to have hit a nerve with MBS.
Are you able to speak about any of those projects yet?
I mean, we did a risk assessment with a number of security experts, and we came up with 6 or 7 items. And as you can imagine, I cannot speak about all of them, but I could mention that 2 of them were initiatives that started in the life of the late Jamal Khashoggi, which and it fell up. I mean, after his death, it fell upon me. Kind of like the projects basically escalated after his death, and it was my team who followed up and took them to another level.
These are projects to do with democracy in the Middle East, transparency in the Middle East, media freedom?
Well, specifically, so Jamal was very concerned about the health of the Arab public sphere, and he realized that the Arab public sphere, in a certain way, shifted from being conventional media to being social media. So he understood the role of Twitter. Twitter was very important in the post-2011 years. It was specifically important in Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia had a very big online population. So he was focused really on this, this conquest of Twitter. Starting with 2015 or 2016, with the rise of Mohammed bin Salman and his right-hand man Saud al-Qahtani, and the whole shady characters around them, going all the way, really crossing over into the United States with Jared Kushner, etc. So he was very concerned about the health of that, and he himself was a very important Twitter influencer in the Arabic language. So both of these initiatives actually had to do with restoring, restoring Twitter's neutrality.
And are you going to change your behavior on Twitter now, given that you now know or suspect that it's your work on Twitter that has attracted the Saudi government's attention, the Saudi trolls who spend a lot of time on Twitter? I mean, I first came across you several years ago on Twitter. You have a big presence there. Are you now going to change your behavior on Twitter in reaction to these threats?
Well, you might have noticed, Mehdi, that I mostly stick to the English language on Twitter. I mean, I do once in a while tweet in Arabic, but it's rather rare. And the reason was really, it was a form of self-censorship. It was me basically knowing that they are far more aggressive because, see, they wanted to control the Arabic language public sphere, and that was, so they needed to control Arabic Twitter, Arabic language Twitter. So had I spoken primarily in Arabic, they would have been so much more aggressive against me, and so it was a form of protection. Right now with these events, what's happening is that I'm crossing over into Arabic, and I might actually have to start speaking in Arabic more because I have a bigger audience, and I think I feel like I have a responsibility towards them. But at the same time,
I guess your self-censorship didn't really help in a sense because you still got targeted by them.
Well, I mean, it's not surprising at the least that MBS would go after dissidents. I mean, there are people who got far worse fates than I did. I mean,
do you find it odd, Iyad, that one arm of the U.S. government, the CIA, is warning you via the Norwegians and others, warning others that the Saudis are trying to murder you, while another arm of the U.S. government, the State Department or the White House or the Pentagon, continues to cozy up to those same Saudis? Isn't that kind of weird?
The conundrum over here is that Saudi Arabia, whether we have MBS or not, Saudi Arabia continues to be an important country and an important strategic ally to to the United States. MBS knows that very well, and he knows that this is something that he can use. So I mean, it is weird that the CIA is basically living up to its legal duty, its duty to warn. But then again, I mean, the only reason why MBS is unaccountable and unhinged is because the one administration in the world that are most capable of reining him in are currently his biggest enablers.
And it's not just the Saudis, of course. You have this shadowy Israeli security firm, the NSO Group, which we've just discovered recently was behind the spyware used to hack into WhatsApp, and which also sold spyware to the Saudis, which was allegedly used to spy on the late Jamal Khashoggi.
Absolutely, and I mean, this relationship, I think it's really good that more light is being shed on it. I should also add that one of the most sensitive investigations that I was involved in, and in fact that was, I think, the most immediate reason I think the threats escalated, was my involvement with the Jeff Bezos hack, and NSO also happened to be the prime suspects with, when it comes to that.
Yeah, you did a lot of reporting around the alleged blackmailing of Amazon boss Jeff Bezos. Let me ask you this. Does it depress you that MBS has not only gotten away with allegedly killing Jamal Khashoggi, the CIA believe with high confidence that he was behind it, but more than 7 months later, he's still able to threaten people like yourself, the Saudi dissident Omar Abdulaziz in Canada, another person in the US who's asked to remain anonymous, the three of you who have been identified as being threatened by the Saudis, as far afield as Norway, Canada, the US, he still has that power.
Yeah, and it makes sense if you think about it. I mean, it actually mirrors the logic of targeting Jeff Bezos, by the way. I mean, I mentioned last week that one of the most painful messages that I received after these events came from a human rights activist who lived within the Arab world, and he sent me a message saying, what does this mean for us? If you live in Norway, which is supposed to be one of the safest countries in the world, and you are threatened, what chance do I have if I live in Lebanon, or I live in Tunisia, or I live in Egypt, or I live in Jordan, or wherever?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a logic. I mean, if you can target someone in Norway, if you can try to blackmail the richest man on the planet, then who's safe?
One final question, Iyad. This isn't the first time your life has been threatened. In 2016, I believe, ISIL added you to a kill list and urged lone wolves to take action against you. In 2017, you received a second warning from the group telling you, quote, "We're watching you." Despite all these dangers to your life from multiple actors, you continue to do what you do. You're here on this show speaking out. Why?
I wouldn't be myself if I don't, Mahdi. I mean, this is an intergenerational struggle. The idea of stopping, the idea of giving up is simply unimaginable.
Iyad, thank you for joining me on UpFront. Be safe.
Thank you so much.
That's our show. UpFront will be back next week.